Emily Carter woke up early that morning. The sky was still grey, typical of springtime in New York. She slipped on her sneakers, tied her hair into a quick bun, and went out for a run. It had been her routine ever since she returned from college. Running helped clear her mind, and lately she needed that more than ever. Her father, Jack Carter, was the head coach of the New York Titans, one of the biggest teams in the NFL. Emily had grown up behind the scenes of football, but never got directly involved. A Harvard law graduate, she wanted to forge her own path until she met Nicholas Vance. Nicholas was everything she wasn't looking for, a billionaire, involved in tech, surrounded by scandals and rumors. But there was something about him that intrigued her. Maybe it was the way he looked at her, as if he could see beyond appearances. Or maybe it was the mystery that surrounded him. That morning, after her run, Emily found something unusual at her doorstep. A brown envelope, no sender, with a red stamp. Confidential FBI. She looked around, but the street was empty. She picked up the envelope carefully, went inside and locked the door. She sat at the kitchen table and opened the envelope. Inside were several printed pages, some bearing the FBI seal, others with photographs. She recognized Nicholas in at least 3 of them. In one, he was in a meeting with 2 men in suits. In another, he was leaving a federal building. The last one showed her and Nicholas together, smiling at a dinner. At the bottom of the envelope, a handwritten note. "He's not who you think he is." Emily felt a chill. Who had sent it and why? She grabbed her phone and called Rachel Monroe, her best friend and an investigative journalist. "Rachel, someone left an FBI envelope at my door. There are photos of Nicholas and one of us," Emily said, trying to stay calm. What do you mean? What kind of photos?" Rachel asked, already on alert. "They're meetings with federal agents, and a note saying he's not who I think he is. You need to tell your dad. This could affect the team he coaches. And you," Emily hesitated. Jack Carter, her father, was strict, protective, and had strong opinions about Nicholas. But maybe it was best to tell him now. She grabbed the envelope and walked to her father's house, just a few blocks away. Jack was in his office, surrounded by clipboards, spreadsheets, and training videos. "Dad, I need to show you something," she said, walking in without knocking. Jack looked at her with concern. Emily placed the envelope on the desk. He flipped through the documents silently. "Did you know about this? Nicholas is under investigation, and someone's watching me," Emily said. Jack took a deep breath. He looked at his daughter, then at the photos. "Nicholas Vance isn't trustworthy. I've told you to stay away from him." "You knew him already?" Jack hesitated. "This isn't the time to talk about that." Emily stayed silent for a few seconds. Then she picked up the envelope and left. She needed answers, and only one person could give them: Nicholas. Later that same day, Emily showed up at Nicholas's office unannounced. The building was modern, with mirrored glass and tight security. She passed through reception and went straight to the top floor. Nicholas was alone, sipping whiskey, staring out the window. "Emily, what a surprise," he said, turning around. She tossed the envelope onto the desk. "You're going to tell me what this is, or I'll take it to the Senate." Nicholas looked at the documents. He didn't seem surprised. "This is a setup. Someone wants me out of the game, and now they're using you. Why? What did you do?" "Nothing you need to fear. But if you want answers, you'll have to trust me." Emily hesitated. She looked at him, then at the documents. She didn't know if she could trust him, but she also didn't know if she could ignore it. That night, Emily was at home, staring at the envelope on the table. The phone rang. "Unknown number," she answered. If you don't hand over the dossier by tomorrow, your father's name will be in the next batch of documents, said a male voice. Emily hung up, shaken. She looked at the envelope. Emily spent the night wide awake. The envelope was still on the table, as if watching her. The threat from the phone call echoed in her mind. If you don't deliver the dossier by tomorrow, your father's name will appear in the next set of documents. She knew she couldn't ignore it, but she couldn't trust anyone either. Not her father, not Nicholas, not the press, maybe not even Rachel. The next morning, Emily went to Rachel's office. The newspaper building was old, with red brick walls and the smell of burnt coffee. Rachel greeted her with a tight hug, but quickly noticed the tension on her friend's face. "You're pale. Did you get any sleep?" Rachel asked. "No, and there's more. I got a call last night. They said if I don't hand over the dossier, my father's name will show up in the next documents." Rachel frowned. "That's blackmail. You need to report it." "Report it to who?" "What if it's true? What if my father's involved?" Rachel went silent. Emily pulled the envelope from her bag and placed it on the desk. "I want you to investigate this. But don't publish anything yet. I need to know the truth before I make any decisions." Rachel nodded. "I'll be discreet. I promise." While Rachel examined the documents, Emily stepped out for some air. She walked to a nearby cafe and ordered tea. She sat at a corner table where she could see the street. She was distracted, looking at her phone, when she noticed a man standing across the street. He wore sunglasses and a baseball cap. He was motionless, staring directly at her. Emily looked away. When she looked back, he was gone. She rushed back to the newspaper office. Rachel was still there, papers spread across the desk. "You won't believe this," Rachel said. "These documents are real. I checked the protocol codes. They're authentic. And there's more. Nicholas is being investigated for misuse of data in government contracts. But your father's name appears on one of the pages. Not directly, but listed as a person of interest." Emily felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. Person of interest? What does that mean? It could mean he was mentioned in a wiretap, or that someone brought up his name in a monitored conversation. Emily sat down, drained. "I need to talk to my father again." She went back to Jack's house. He was in the yard washing the car. When he saw his daughter, he dropped the hose and dried his hands. "Emily, is something wrong? We need to talk now." They went inside. Emily placed the documents on the kitchen table. "You lied to me. Your name is in here, listed as a person of interest. What does that mean?" Jack looked at the papers, then at his daughter. "I can't tell you everything, but yes, I've known Nicholas much longer than you think." "Since when?" "Déjà vu, so since before you were born. We served together in the military. He was an intelligence analyst. We worked on an operation that went wrong. After that, he disappeared, only resurfaced years later as a tech billionaire. Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because I wanted to protect you, and because I don't trust him. He's not just a businessman. He knows how to manipulate people. And now he's using you." Emily stayed silent. It all made sense. But still, she wanted to believe Nicholas was different with her. "I need to hear his side." "Ooh," she said. Jack shook his head. "Just be careful. He doesn't play fair." Emily left her father's house with a heavy heart. She called Nicholas and asked to meet. He suggested a discreet restaurant outside the city center. When she arrived, Nicholas was already waiting. He looked sharp but tired. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Nah, and you know why? My father said you served together, that you disappeared, and now your name is in FBI documents. And so is his." Nicholas sighed. "I didn't want you to find out this way. But yes, it's true. Your father and I were part of an operation that should never have happened." After that, I left, started working in tech. But I was never off the radar. And now, with the contracts my company has with the government, everything's resurfacing. And why is my father involved? Because he tried to protect me, and now they're using that against him. And against you. Emily looked at him, trying to read the sincerity in his words. Are you using me, Nicholas? He took her hand. No, I fell in love with you. That's real. But now you're caught in something much bigger, and you need to decide whose side you're on. Emily pulled her hand back. I need to think. She left the restaurant and walked to her car. When she got in, she found a new envelope on the passenger seat. No sender, just one handwritten word, choose. She opened it. Inside was a copy of the same dossier, but with more pages, and a new photo. Jack Carter shaking hands with the senator under investigation for corruption. Emily rested her head on the steering wheel. Tears began to fall. She was at the center of a web of lies and no longer knew who to trust. Emily spent the rest of the night trying to understand what that new photo meant. Her father shaking hands with a senator under investigation for corruption. That hadn't appeared in the previous documents. It changed everything. She knew she had to confront Jack again, but she also knew he didn't trust easily. And now, maybe she didn't trust him either. The next morning, Emily returned to her father's house. Jack was in the kitchen making coffee. When he saw his daughter walk in with the envelope in hand, he already knew the conversation would be difficult. There's more, Dad, she said, placing the new photo on the table. Jack looked at it. He recognized the image immediately. That was years ago. I was called to an informal meeting. I didn't know he was under investigation, but you shook his hand. And now your name appears in FBI documents. You need to tell me everything, Jack sighed. He sat down at the table. Emily, when you were little, I was part of a group that tried to protect the country from internal threats. Nicholas was there, that senator too, but over time things changed. The group fell apart. Some went down dark paths. I stepped away, but my name still shows up in old records. And now someone is using that against me. Against you, Emily listened in silence. She wanted to believe him, but everything was getting more confusing. And Nicholas, he said he protected you, that you tried to protect him. I did, but he chose a different path. And now he's trying to pull you into this. Emily left her father's house with her mind racing. She needed time, but time was against her. The threat from the phone call still echoed. And now, with more documents in hand, she knew she was being watched. She returned to the newspaper and found Rachel in a private room. I need to know who's behind this, Emily said. Rachel showed her a list of names. People connected to the government, the press, national security. There's a pattern here. All these names appear in records tied to Nicholas's company. And some are linked to your father's team. Emily scanned the names. One stood out, Blake Harrison, senator, head of the committee investigating Nicholas, and former board member of the Titans. That can't be a coincidence, she said. Rachel agreed. Someone's trying to take Nicholas down, and maybe your father is just a pawn on the board. Emily decided she had to confront the senator. She scheduled a meeting using her attorney credentials. When she arrived at his office, she was greeted by an aide. The senator is busy, he said. Tell him it's about the Vance case. He'll see me. Minutes later, Emily entered the office. Blake Harrison was seated, looking at a tablet. Emily Carter, Jack Carter's daughter, attorney, and involved with Nicholas Vance, he said without looking up. I want to know why my father is being named in the investigation documents, and why I've received threats. Blake looked at her. Because your father knows more than he admits, and because you're getting too close to someone who poses a national risk. Nicholas isn't a threat. He's being used as a scapegoat. Maybe, but what matters is what the public believes. And now you're at the center of it. Emily left the office with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. She was being used by Nicholas. by the Senate, maybe even by her own father. That night she returned home and found Rachel waiting at the door. "I found out who sent you the envelopes," Rachel said. Emily froze. "Who?" "A former FBI agent. He worked with Nicholas. Was fired. And now he's trying to expose everything, including you." Emily went inside, sat on the couch, looked at the documents scattered across the table. She knew she had to make a decision: hand the dossier over to the Senate and protect her father, or trust Nicholas and try to uncover the truth herself. She picked up her phone, called Nicholas. "We need to talk tomorrow. No secrets," Nicholas agreed. "Tomorrow. No secrets." Emily hung up, looked at the envelope, and for the first time felt she was about to uncover something that would change everything. Emily woke up early the next day. The meeting with Nicholas was set for 10 a.m., but she was ready by 8. She reviewed the documents, reread the messages, and tried to organize her thoughts. She knew she couldn't blindly trust anyone, but she also knew she had to listen to Nicholas carefully. Maybe he was the only one willing to tell the truth. She arrived at the agreed location, a renovated warehouse used for private events. Nicholas was waiting in a reserved room, dimly lit with closed windows. There was security at the entrance, but inside it was just the two of them. "Thank you for coming," Nicholas said calmly. "I came because I want answers, and I want them to be true," Emily replied firmly. Nicholas nodded. He sat across from her and began to speak. What you received isn't a surprise to me. I knew they were watching you, and I knew they'd use you to get to me. But what you might not know is that your father has been under pressure for years. He tried to walk away from this game, but they never let him." Emily interrupted. "Are you saying my father is being blackmailed?" "Not just that. He was used, just like I was, just like you are now." Nicholas handed her a new document. It was an internal report with dates and names. Jack Carter's name appeared as an unofficial collaborator in a surveillance operation. Blake Harrison's name was also there as political coordinator. Emily read in silence. Her heart was racing. "Is this real?" "It is. And if you want, I can take you to someone who can confirm everything. But you need to be ready, because after this, there's no turning back." Emily took a deep breath. She knew she was about to cross a line. "Take me to this person." Nicholas led her to a car. They drove for about 40 minutes to a remote house on the outskirts of the city. There a man was waiting. It was the former FBI agent Rachel had mentioned, Emily Carter. "I knew you'd come," he said with a subtle smile. You sent me the envelopes?" "Yes, and I did it because you needed to know. Your father's an honest man, but he's surrounded by dangerous people. And Nicholas, well, he's trying to clear his name. But it's not easy when everyone wants to bury you." Emily sat across from him. "Tell me everything." "No filters," the man began to speak. He talked about secret operations, manipulated contracts, how Jack's name was used to validate deals he never signed. He spoke about Blake Harrison, how he used the Titans football team as a front for political maneuvers, and how Nicholas tried to expose it all and was silenced. Emily listened to everything, and when it was over, she knew she couldn't stay silent any longer. She returned home and called Rachel. "I want to publish, but I want to do it the right way, with evidence, with context. No sensationalism," Rachel agreed. "Let's do it together." That night, Emily began to write. She compiled a full dossier with documents, testimonies, and connections. But before sending it to Rachel, she made a copy and left it at her father's house. Jack found the envelope the next morning. He read everything and cried. He called Emily. "You did what I never had the courage to do." "I'm proud of you," Emily smiled. But she knew this was only the beginning. Hours later, Rachel published the story. The headline, "The Dossier, How Power Used Football to Hide Federal Secrets." The news spread. Nicholas's name was cleared. Jack's name was protected. And Blake Harrison was summoned for a new hearing. Emily watched it all unfold from her living room. She knew there were still risks. Days had passed since the article was published. Emily had become the center of attention. The press wanted interviews, fans wanted answers, and politicians wanted silence. But she wasn't intimidated. She kept working, reviewing documents, protecting her father, and trying to understand what was coming next. Jack Carter was summoned to a meeting with the team's owners. They wanted to know if he was involved in any illegal schemes. Jack denied it. He showed them the documents Emily had gathered, said he was willing to cooperate with any investigation. But he also made it clear he wouldn't step down. Nicholas, on the other hand, remained silent. Since the article's release, he hadn't made any public appearances. Emily tried calling him, but he didn't answer. She began to wonder if he had disappeared on purpose, or if someone had silenced him. Rachel kept investigating. She discovered that Blake Harrison was trying to pass a bill that would make it harder to access public records. A clear attempt to prevent cases like Nicholas's from resurfacing. Emily decided she couldn't let that happen. She went to the Senate, requested a hearing, and got it. On the morning of the hearing, she wore a dark suit, tied her hair back, and walked into the building with steady steps. Jack was by her side. Rachel, too. In the room, Blake Harrison sat at the front. When he saw Emily, he gave a sarcastic smile. "Miss Carter, I see you're determined." "I am, and I'm here to defend the right to truth." Emily presented the documents, explained how they were obtained, showed the connections between the team, the contracts, and the politicians involved, spoke about the misuse of her father's name, and how Nicholas had tried to warn everyone, but was silenced. The room fell silent. Some senators whispered. Others took notes. Blake tried to defend himself. "This is a narrative built by someone emotionally involved with the subject of the investigation," Emily responded firmly. "This is a narrative built by someone afraid of the truth." The hearing ended with a formal request to investigate the contracts mentioned. Emily walked out of the building with her head held high. Jack hugged her. Rachel smiled. That night, Emily received a message. It was from Nicholas. "I'm safe. Thank you for everything." "You changed the game," she smiled. She knew there was still a long road ahead, but she also knew she had taken the first step.